Look at this fucking river. Look at this shit. Look at this fucking shit.
Yeah, summer 17, it be you and me on a white sand beach, sipping Hennessy. Tell me what you want, tell me what you need. In a new M3 with the leather seats.
Oliver and I had a hell of a fucking time in 2017 while the world seemed to burn around us. He'd blown up the year before, cranking out constant music videos until a few of them broke big, and I'd likewise spiked my Patreon by adopting a monthly payment system and the identity of the human content machine. That backing got Oliver out of his mama's house, according to his own lyrics, and it got me out of mine. My audience witnessed a summer driving up to New York to get laid and finding the woman whom I'd proposed to about 10 seconds after the year was over, right after the ball dropped. I was surprised to learn that Oliver is barely a year younger than me, but only so much. I also look young as shit when I shave my face. Oliver looks way younger and better ever since bleaching his hair. Both of us grew up upper middle class, though he was closer to downright new rich. Both of our families lost all of that at one point and ended up broke, and while we did stabilize, it gave us a much greater appreciation for what we had. And as we moved into adulthood, we desired greater things even than what we had as rich teens in the form of iPods and Xboxes, like cars, girls, and as much weed as we can humanly smoke, but most importantly, just a general sense of personal freedom and financial independence, and we understood that to acquire these would require diligent work and eyes on the long prize. Oliver posted his first song of the year on New Year's Day, and it made it onto Chlorine, so let's give it a once-over. For starters, 2016 was already an explosive year for Oliver. You can go ahead and check his numbers, I guess. I don't know where the hell you'd find them. It's important to note that Oliver is about to spend the rest of the year essentially disavowing all of the music that he's made up to this point because he thinks it's all fake bullshit that sucks. You see, Oliver got his start as a SoundCloud sad boy rapper, basically someone who makes dark atmospheric beats and raps about doing drugs and being sad about shit. In reality though, Oliver is a good boy. He's extremely appreciative of everything that he's earned, because he's some 20-something kid from the middle of some little college town in Missouri who made his entire career by fucking around in FL Studio in his mama's basement. As soon as Oliver started making it for real, he couldn't fake the sad boy identity anymore, and he strongly regretted implying in his raps that he drinks lean and perp and shit, because all he really does is smoke assloads of weed, drink shitloads of tequila and Hennessy, and watch Netflix with his girlfriend. Up to this point, Oliver had developed his career as a sort of vlogger/musician combo. Because he made so many goddamn music videos and just kind of filled them with his friends and did some fun visual tricks with them, he's got this sort of comfortable Midwestern cult favorite air about him, and his fans are extremely devoted. It helped that when Oliver did change his sound to better reflect his real self, his creativity exploded and his songs got way better. While he hasn't had the same kind of occasional lightning rod virality that he was getting in 2016, he's got a very supportive following of even picky fucks like me. In this song, he actually implies that when he scrolls down to read the comments, they all just say that he's a great, and he's just being honest. New Year's Eve had been Oliver's outright longest track to date, totaling 4.5 minutes, and most of it consists of one unbroken verse which occasionally has little repetitive hooks embedded into it. The reason for this will become clear on the track which comes before it on the album, Good Life Freestyle, wherein Oliver raps,
I had to step it up, 'cause my song's hard, but the power's lousy.
a sentiment he regularly expresses towards his old music in interviews. New Year's Day was meant to be a statement that Oliver was starting fresh from 2017. This was the first song that was going to be on his next major album, which was going to be his longest and most ambitious yet, and he was not bullshitting on the lyrics. Granted, Oliver is not someone who you come to for intelligent lyrics. Almost all of his songs are about the same 5 or 6 things which comprise his vision of the good life. He addresses this at the start of Nothing Gold Can Stay.
They say that all I rap about is bathing, they been smoking weed. But last year, man, that shit was just a dream for me. And all these rappers act like this shit don't mean shit to me. But understand that I appreciate what I achieve.
It's a hell of an empowering way of looking at his own lyrics, and it's convincing because Oliver really does drip with romantic fervor towards this good life vision. It's very clear that this guy is extremely happy with the way that his life is going, and he's made an album for enjoying the happiest moments of your life. Hey, coming in from the future, I was looking back at this video and I thought that I was slagging on Oliver's lyrics a little bit too hard, because he does have some really interesting lyrical tricks that he employs, such as in the song Nothing Gold Can Stay, He does this thing where he sort of continues the same narrative throughout multiple stages of like what in an ordinary song would be sort of a new verse, but he bridges the gaps between verses by following the same narrative, even though he's majorly changing up his flow and the instrumental over the course of the song. Here's a great example of what I'm talking about.
If you headed home from work, stuck at 5 o'clock traffic, just remember I'm the proof that if you want it, you can have it, ayy. And they say, Ali, you deserve it. I crack that cigarette load and I'm rolling out that purple.
He also has a knack for just making every single line so melodic and hook-worthy that it's almost as if the entire song is comprised of hooks. Random lyrics from Oliver songs get stuck in my head all the time just because they're so fun to sort of hum along to. Over the summer of 2017, I would quickly be thankful for this vibe's existence. I was feeling pretty baller when this album came out in April, since I was in the process of trying to figure out by which means I was going to pack my entire house into an automobile and tour the country. I gave up on using an RV and just loaded up my car, then headed first 10 hours straight north to the house of an extremely hot girl whom I'd been Snapchat sexting with for months. I barely knew anything about her, but she was a huge fan of my music, and I knew she was actively following my Twitter, so I asked if she had listened to Chlorine when I tweeted about it the month before. She said she had and that it was good shit, so I put it on the first night we spent together and easily 10 or more times since. Half of this album is guaranteed going to play during my wedding reception. It was both of our favorite album of the year. Despite having had the album on in the background 15 or more times before having gone to visit her, I'd never paid much attention to the lyrics, and around the same time I was starting to catch on and sing along to Celebration or Hip Bones, she had put together way before me that Summer 17 was indeed referring to the summer of 2017.
Yeah, summer.
In its chorus, Oliver sings,
Summer 17, it be you and me on a white sand beach, sipping Hennessy.
We made good on one of those promises by summer's end when she flew to my hometown of Virginia Beach, a city where I'd shown another small-town Missouri boy the ocean for the first time in his life just a few months beforehand. Unfortunately, we aren't the type to take pictures, and we didn't discover Hennessy until the following February, but I did buy a bottle on Oliver's insistence, and it was fantastic. Continuing into Summer 17, Oliver shouts his girls working fast food, and promises that they'll never work that day job again once he comes through. My girlfriend handed in her 2 weeks' notice just about halfway in December that year.
Let's make some plans, I wanna get to know you. And if you're lonely, I know what you gon' do, yeah. Just trying to show how a real wanna treat you, yeah. Girl, you perfect, know you worth it, yeah, you deserve it. You text me flirting, the way you work it, need you in person.
Need you in person? Oh yeah, did I mention Oliver was in a long-distance relationship? In Good Life Freestyle, Oliver begins,
and I ain't got a single thing to cry about. New house, got some gold in my mouth. With some California girls gonna fly them out. Hey, finally moved at my mama house. Ooh.
This isn't the last time that he'll refer to the California girl, nor to the desire to see his lover in person. The lyrics to Hip Bones, the sad emo song that falls at track 6 on the album, read,
And the way that your face glows, a lot of your cell phone is leaving me lost and confused. That your hair falls down past your cheekbones is leaving me lusting for you again. I wish I was there in your room again.
Throughout the album, Oliver will reflect both on an experience in which he paid for his girlfriend and some of her friends to fly out to Missouri to hang out with them, and on a later album he will make references to experiences he's had in LA, implying that he's been to California. It's likely that Oliver's girlfriend was someone he met online through his career and whom he'd come to see, and who'd flown out to see him since getting a new house. I have no idea if she's also the girl who's hitting him up in his DMs on New Year's Day, but I wouldn't be surprised, since I wrote about the girl that I was getting with in the same way in my own raps at the time. Whatever the case, I think he was trying to convince her to move out to the middle of Missouri with him. You see, Oliver's idea of the good life presented all over this album is extremely simple. He buys a lot of designer fashion, drives a really nice car, smokes shitloads of weed with his friends, drinks, and keeps it low-key as fuck. In Nothing Gold Can Stay, he raps,
I ain't in the club 'cause I'm a homebody. Oh, I'm just smoking watching Netflix.
In Oliver's mind, he doesn't need the fast life of California, just like he doesn't need the traditional route through the record industry. He's got enough money to buy all the shit that he wants as it is, and he can afford to give that life to his main girl too, provided she'll move out and live with him. I didn't have the money to confidently just whisk my girl out of her hometown to come with me, nor did I have the patience to wait for her to be comfortable with the idea. I saw little reason to continue living in Virginia Beach, so I just moved up to Rochester that summer and we got a place together. Then again, I'm a little older, with a little longer, more stable career, even if I'm not as explosively popular or rich as Oliver, and I'm also not blowing all that money on cars. Just weed. Boy howdy though, did I ever use her as an excuse to finally blow through a few grand of the money I'd been obsessively saving for years just because I literally didn't know what to spend it on.
I got 6,000 bucks and don't know what I wanna own. I'm grown, I'm grown, I'm grown, I'm grown, I'm grown.
We ate out at restaurants almost every night, and I drove her all over town in my BMW, taking trips whenever we could, and furnishing our house with, well, mostly Goodwill and Walmart shit, because I am a complete cheap ass. But let me tell you, our weed supply never goes dry unless the dealers are out of town, and Celebration was a soundtrack to spending. Given the chronology of the songs and videos released from Chlorine, I would hazard a guess that Oliver flew out his California girls sometime in early 2017 after buying his new house, and that they filmed the video for Gardens while the girls were there, since it's pretty obvious that these are in fact them. He wrote a lot of the album about this time that they spent together, wherein he attempted to sell her on his lifestyle, and then made a promise about what they were going to do together that summer in summer 17, very literally. After that, he's back to sexting with her long distance again in Hip Bones, though given that he wishes he was in her room again as opposed to having her in his again, he might have written this song before that meeting and just placed it further back in the album because it sounds better there. Doesn't matter. It's worth mentioning though that the next track, Nothing Gold Can Stay, which is mostly a typical Oliver brand self-affirming good life track, perplexingly contains this lyric after which it was named. I would be surprised if this song wasn't Oliver's way of sort of writing his way back up from the bottom of having his girlfriend leave again and turning to alcohol in a big way out of boredom. After the first week that my then girlfriend and I spent together, I had to continue my travels for another month or so. I circled back around to spend another week and a half with her after 2.5 weeks apart, and it had been like torture, even though I spent that whole time visiting a series of my best friends to make fun videos with. It was still far more gratifying to be with her again, and twice as heartbreaking to leave her for another week and a half right afterwards, but it was all in the effort to properly time our moving in together, and we managed to pull it off insanely fast. I'm not sure if Oliver did the same over the summer, but from the way that he describes his current relationship in his No Jumper interview from July, if he is still dating the same girl, then it seems likely that she's probably living with him now. Oliver's Chlorine is overrun with feel-great hooks which naturally come to mind just by feeling nice in general. His music is at once sexy, young, and somewhat aggressive, what with the word fuck appearing in both of the first two lines on the album, which I love, but also reassuring, comfortable, romantic, and heartwarming. You can chill to it, you can fuck to it, you can most definitely smoke to it, and I started smoking last fall, so you know I was bumping this shit on the regular. There's a few random anime samples that I haven't been able to identify, which fall into Oliver's really unique intros and outros that make his album feel much more weighty and significant musically than it might have. Aside from the narrative backdrop adding some intrigue and relatability, the lyrics are mostly entertaining because Oliver's idea of living the good life is so similar to my own, and he definitely influenced some of the raps that I released late last year, like Way Up.
Never sharing this love, they can only taste the peace, sweeter than they ever knew, so much more they'll never see, we can take this everywhere, we can never ever leave, whatever you want baby, you're the queen and I'm the king, really when you ride with me we turn the music way up, drag that cushion to your head, it's gonna take us straight up, over everybody at the party gon' be laid up, popping up or down or hey whatever keeps the play up.
Initially, I saw Oliver as occupying a similar musical space of lighthearted fun and self-affirming themes that Lil Yachty inhabited, but with a more vibey sound. Gradually, I found that Oliver is better couples music. Yachty constantly brags about how he doesn't need women in his life, can't trust them, and won't keep them for more than one night as part of his self-loving identity. Oliver, meanwhile, would much rather have his girl along with him every step of the way, and in the end, that's what my summer was all about, which is lucky because Yachty's album turned out to be total garbage anyways. With his unique vibes and infectious hooks, Oliver landed 6 tracks on my top 35 of the year. Those previously discussed aside, there was Comfortable Full, which I blame for all the Grey Goose I've drank in the last 8 months, and Let My Guard Down, where the inner sad boy bleeds through a little more. Don't Start and Can't Handle My Love are weaker tracks, which is kind of a blow to a 10-track, 28-minute album, and the reason I would probably score it with a strong 8 out of 10, but that didn't stop it from being the album of the year 2017.
Roll that dope, rolling Doja. I'ma scoop you in that Rover. Girl, come over. We chase the Henny with the soda, with the soda.